Perhaps the most iconic location, well, easily the most iconic location from Pet Sematary is none other than the Creed house. So the homeowner was gracious enough to give me permission for this 35th anniversary to go inside the Creed house. First time, full access tour. We're gonna have a look. Now this is the front door here, which is locked. So we're gonna go into the side door. But this shot here, just to get while we're out here, where Rachel, there's actually a lot of stuff that happens here, but this one in particular, where Rachel comes out. Actually, she's coming home with groceries, got a bag of groceries in her hand, and Missy is coming out of the door. And that action happened right here. So here we go. Now we're gonna go inside. So right here we get this shot where Lewis is kind of sitting on the floor over here playing with Gage. I believe Rachel walks down those stairs. Dining room. And here we have a shot where Lewis would be sitting in that chair right over there. And Gage is playing on the floor. I think this is the moment, if I remember correctly, where Gage pushes his little walker truck into a box, and he says, and Lewis is watching him. But that's this angle right here. For the most part, it very much looks the same. You can actually even see where the phone would have hung on the wall up here in the other room. And this dresser is actually the same. We move this chair out of the way so you can see. You can definitely tell that is the exact same dresser. Now this would be the living room. Down the hall, another tiny bathroom. Now let's have a look upstairs. Upstairs bedroom. And this sort of overlooks the road in the field where the kite flying scene took place. And my truck out there. And then over here we have this bedroom, guest bedroom. So this house is actually not as big inside as it really looks, but it's still a beautiful house. So coming through the front door, this is the kitchen. And they recreated a lot of the, they recreated this interior kitchen as a set. And some of the giveaways that it is set is in here. You can see Lewis come around the corner, around the table, and you can see behind him that yellow cabinetry, and in my shot you have this wooden cabinet. Now as Lewis walks around the table and towards the refrigerator where he's gonna sit down on the floor there and play with his deck of cards while he waits for Rachel to come back, if you really pay attention and look at the cabinetry, I mean, same color scheme, all of that. Obviously, they really try to replicate the look and feel of the actual property. But as you can see, certain things don't match up. You know, that opening is much smaller here on location than it is on the set. They made that a very wide opening. The fridge is not in the same place. The stove is not in the same place. The window is a little bit off. The dishwasher is not in the same place. And when Rachel finally shows up and she starts walking through the space, you can clearly see a wooden door in that corner back there, as well as like a little lamp, a light post, kind of little lamp there hanging on the wall. And that is clearly not here. This is all cabinetry. All the interior of the Creed house was shot and constructed on a set at the Bangor Armory. Now, unfortunately, the ending scene, the famous ending scene where Rachel raises the knife, had they shot it on location in the actual Creed house, it would have been basically this angle right here. You also get this shot from this angle where Jud is leaning up against this wall here, and he says, "The soil of a man's heart, Lewis, is stonier." So back from the kitchen, this is what the kitchen looks like. Come in here, just a couple of bedrooms. Bathroom. But this is what it looks like today. And you can see this door here to the basement, and that is very recognizable. As you see, Lewis comes out of here when he wakes up in the middle of the night, and Pascal's calling him, you know, to walk to the pet cemetery. And you can see Lewis come through here, and this doorway is open at the time. And he goes down the steps to the basement. So this is the basement of the Creed house. And you get this angle. Where is it? Right here. As Lewis is coming down the steps, walking down the steps. And it's recognizable, and you know, because of this piece right here, you can clearly see that in the shot. So let's keep going. So it's this angle here when Lewis has finished raking the front yard, and he comes around the corner through the open garage door. This is the angle, and he starts to walk this way. So from the staircase, you go out this way, and this is very recognizable. You can see they've done some updating here. Those are new cinder blocks, but and you get this shot here. Looks a little bit different, but still completely recognizable. And you would have had, now Lewis, the first time we see kind of reanimated, if you will, he is in here in the basement, and he scares Lewis, who had just come in from outside, out the front of the house, raking leaves. He comes in and he sets the rake down, and he goes to walk forward, and he sees church. Now, I believe when he sees church for the first time, it is right here, this angle. Church is kind of right up on that, where the concrete meets right there. You can see right here, it's a little plot, and I think that's right where he was sitting. And then you get that famous, now after Lewis sees church, it startles him, and he falls over right here in this spot, and he's got his shoulder kind of up on the top of these cinder blocks here, or that concrete, and he just falls right into that corner. And then church takes off running right out here in this corner. This garage door is open, and he goes right outside, and you know that's the spot because this crack in the concrete is clearly in the frame. And so when Lewis is following Pascal out into the yard to head down to the pet cemetery, he walks slowly right down through here. Now, in another shot, this chimney, there was like a bench in front of that chimney, and there is another shot in the film where you can actually see church sitting on that, bench or whatever it is that's right up against that that fireplace chimney. So this is it for the Creed basement. How fitting is that? Could this have been Gage's? All right, we've given you a nice little tour of the inside of the Creed house. So now let's go take a peek and see what happened outside on the property. Okay, so at the beginning of the film, we get this shot here. Creed's coming out this road in a car. And they pull in right here. Just like that. We got a shot of the car kind of coming down the driveway like this. And then we get a reverse shot here of the back, the bumper sticker on the back of the Creed car that says, "Have you hugged your MD today?" So then we get this shot right here when they get out of the car for the first time. And Rachel looks at the house, and you can tell that she's in love with the house. Now, if you look in the distance, right there, that's where they used to have a tree. They wanted a tree in that spot for the film, but there wasn't one here, so they actually brought one in and planted it. And they kept it alive for quite a while, and then eventually it started to die, and it had to be cut down and removed. But that was the tree that the tire swing hung from. And then just over that little embankment right there is the path to the pet cemetery.
Yeah, that's a good story. A good walk. I'll take you up there sometime. Tell you the story, too.
So when Ellie gets out of the car, she's all excited about this new home of hers. And she does a couple of cartwheels right in front of this building right here. And this literally looks exactly the same as it did in 1988. That is just uncanny. And this is kind of a look at what's inside here today. Really cool. Wow. Now, there was a lot of speculation about the location, the filming location where Missy Dandridge actually hung herself. And there's some speculation that it was in this garage, and I can confirm beyond the shadow of a doubt that it was not in this building, the structure. In the shot, you can clearly see stone wall. There's like a stone wall in the background, and there's no stone to be found anywhere in here. So we can 100% debunk that. Now it's right here where the Creeds meet Jud Crandall from across the road.
I live just across the road.
Right here. And they're kind of standing right in front of that stone pillar over here. They're kind of right in there because little Gage is about to run into the road, and Jud scoops him up and says,
"Nope, my friend. Not in that road."
Now you can see this little building off to the left in the background when we meet Jud for the first time. Now this house across the street is where the owners stay in the wintertime, because it's easier to heat that than it is this big house. And they built a facade that covered that entire house, and that is what was Jud's house. Now, come in here, there used to be a tree in this yard as well. And right here, so it would have been kind of like this angle. So the scene where Jud calls Lewis and says, "I think you may have a spot of trouble here. There's a dead cat on the edge of my lawn. I think it might be your daughter's." Lewis is walking across the street, and You got Jud looking all mysterious with his hood pulled up. And his house would have been right here. And they burned that facade down. They actually burnt it, and luckily didn't do any damage to this home. Now you get this angle here when Lewis comes over to check out Church's body, and he would have been right here, right on this part of the lawn here. That's where Church's frozen body would have laid, and Lewis peeled him off of the frozen ground. That's basically that shot right there. Now you get another shot here where Lewis is raking the leaves. And there used to be a fence down here in the corner. There used to be a fence along the driveway, but that has long since been removed. But this is the angle, this is the frame. And he would have raked up all the leaves right here in the front yard before going back into the garage, the basement, and having his first encounter with the reanimated Church. Now we get another shot here, and this is just off of the front porch where Church comes out and Lewis wants to get a look at him. Can't believe that he's alive again. And so he picks him up and says, "You stink, Church." And then he scratches him in the face. And that's basically this angle right here. Now there used to be bushes all along here, which have obviously since been removed. And Church pops out right here. There's like a little hole behind the bushes. And there also used to be like a drain pipe right here coming down. It's kind of sort of like that, right in that spot. But you know this is the exact location. You can tell by the patchwork on the granite there. It really is basically unchanged. So this is the front lawn of the Creed house. Now if you walk down this way over to my left, this is where that tree would have been with the tire swing hanging. Some people mistake that tree right there because it has a swing hanging from it as the tree, but it's not. It was actually right here. It was planted here from production. The tire swing would have been hanging right here. So Ellie would have been swinging back and forth like this. And then you see this hill right here. You would have gotten this type of thing, this motion, where she was looking at the path and discovering the path for the first time. Now, if you actually walk down here, this is the exact path, which supposedly leads to the pet cemetery. Now, as most of you know, I'm sure, the pet cemetery walk to it is much more involved than this. It's not just a simple path from the house. It's like 4 or 5 different locations to get to, scattered all over Maine. And if you come down this path, this is what you're going to run into. No pet cemeteries here. Now you get this angle as well, several times actually, in the film. One, when Jud's gonna show them the pet cemetery for the first time, and the family kind of comes right over this little hill here, this little rise, and then you see this again after Jud buries church with Lewis at the Micmac burial ground, and they come back at night. You can see them kind of walking up this hill, tired from all that hiking, which I can imagine considering it was 7 different places all over the state. Now, one other shot that you do get is this angle right here, and you can see the pole in the background there, where Lewis is carrying Rachel's corpse and heading to the pet cemetery, up to the Micmac burial ground to see if he can resurrect her. And you have Victor Pascow standing in the road right there trying to stop him. There used to be some stone steps right here in the lawn that have since been taken out, but yeah, this is towards the end of the film. I think that's going to do it for the Creed house. The primary location from Pet Sematary, right here. This is a beautiful home, largely remains completely unchanged since 1988 when they filmed this. So just beyond, or just before the Creed house, you have the field where perhaps the most famous scene in the whole film took place. And that is right here, just before you reach the Creed house on 303 Point Road in Hancock, Maine. You have this field where the family was having a little picnic and flying a kite, and the picnic table would have been right about here, and about this distance from the road. Looks a lot farther than it really is. And little Gage was flying a kite right here. And all of a sudden, he loses control and drops it. And it starts to, the little handle to the kite starts to blow away. And he starts chasing after it, running right for the road. And at the time, Lewis and Rachel and Jud are all distracted by something Ellie says.
It's gone away from him, that numb shit!
And they don't notice that Gage is running towards the road.
Don't let him go off the road, Lewis!
Get him, Lewis! Get the baby! Get the baby! Get the baby!
And then we come up to the road. And as we come up to the road, we see this is the road. So when you hear Jud Crandall say,
Want to watch out for that road.
this is that road, the Orinco truck comes driving down over that hill. Right this way, is right in the middle of the road. Now, an interesting thing about this shot is they did what they call a mirror shot. So the truck isn't actually driving right at Gage. They use a mirror shot, and it's about this angle, and you can actually see it in the shot. If you pause it and look closely enough, you can see the frame from over here all the way across the road. It looks like a broken piece of glass. At least, you know, that's how you can tell that they overlaid the two images. One with Gage in the road and the other with the truck approaching. And when the Orinco truck is flipped over and you're seeing the wheels spinning after he slams on the brakes, you get this shot, this angle. So even if you're not a fan of horror films, if you ever heard of the movie Pet Sematary, this scene comes to mind. Everybody knows this scene. And for those of us who saw this at a way too young age, this is all the more visceral and real and sort of burned into our brains. And it was very much a product of its time. Honestly, I don't think you would see this type of content in film today. I think it would be much more heavily edited. But that's going to do it for the Creed house interior and exterior and the famous road. So please continue to follow my Pet Sematary 35th anniversary filming locations playlist. We got a lot more to come, so we'll see you in the next one.
First they played with Dad, then Mommy came, and I played with Mommy. We played, Daddy. We had an awful good time. Now I want to play.
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back. It may look like that person, but it ain't that person. Because whatever lives in the ground beyond that cemetery ain't human at all.